What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of What's the Word? Your home for all things sports. I'm your host, Sam Casillas, guys. And before we dive into today's episode, I just wanted to give a big shout out and big thanks to you guys, man. You guys have been showing so much love, showing so much support, guys. I'm so thankful for everything. You guys have been showing a lot of love. You guys have been helping the channel grow, guys. I'm so thankful for everything, guys. As always, before this video starts, I want y'all to go drop a like, go drop a sub if you're new, guys. Go tell a friend to tell a friend, guys. Be the reason you put somebody on What's the Word, guys. I guarantee you, your friend, you put somebody on What's the Word, they're going to be so thankful, guys. This is what they're missing in life, guys. But without further ado, let's get right into it, guys. The NBA Finals are here, and let me just say, 0.3 seconds. 0.3 seconds is how long the Indiana Pacers had the lead in Game 1 of the NBA Finals, and that is all it took for them to get the W. People are saying, let me just say, people are saying that, Indiana stole a game. Oh, guys, they stole a game. Oh, it was a fluke win. Guys, that couldn't be further from the truth. And it's about time people start giving Indiana their respect, guys. Give Indy their flowers. Give Indy their respect. They walked into OKC's trap and they took it over. Plain and simple. They dominated OKC on the glass. Let's really dive into the numbers, guys. They dominated OKC on the glass. They were plus 17 in that category. Okay? They shot lights out from three. Indiana shot 47% compared to OKC's 39%. So, the Pacers showed people that they belong here. They came out and they kind of punched OKC in the mouth a little bit. I think OKC wasn't really expecting that. And, Indiana was able to do something that not a lot of teams have done, which is go into Oklahoma City, go in there and win a game. And, they really made a statement. I think a lot of people were not expecting that. They were huge underdogs in the series. So they walked in, really one thing. I think the biggest takeaway for the Indiana Pacers is, guys, they gotta not turn the ball over, guys. Okay, we're keeping it a buck. The Pacers were really struggling in that department. 25 turnovers is something that I'm sure head coach Rick Carlisle is going to put a big point of emphasis on going into game 2, because let's be real, guys, that is unacceptable. And, Indiana is doing what they do. They've been so good down the stretch. But, guys, you cannot turn the ball over 25 times and expect to, continue to be successful. So Indiana was able to pull it off this game in game 1, but, Rick Carlisle's really got to emphasize that to his team. But, I really got to give a big shout out to Rick Carlisle, because I don't know if you guys noticed that, but, Halliburton gets the ball. He's ready to win the game. Indiana had a timeout, and a lot of people thought that Rick Carlisle was going to call a timeout and, maybe draw up a play. And he decided, he said, hey, you know what? Shoot or shoot. I'm going to let Halliburton do his thing. I'm going to let Halliburton cook. Halliburton's been absolutely clutch in these playoffs. I mean, just shout out to Rick Carlisle, trusting his dogs, letting his big dogs eat. And Halliburton did just that. I mean, shout out to Halliburton. He is on a generational run on this playoffs already, joining some elite company. You look at him already, 5-game winners in these playoffs alone. So he's second on that list since 1997. He's tied with Reggie Miller behind LeBron James. So Tyrese Halliburton, 5-game winners all in these playoffs alone. And like I said, it just goes back to the Pacers being such a complete team, such a fighting team, such a gritty team. They set each other up to be successful. They have other players, Pascal Siakam, Nembhard, Nesmith, logging some great minutes, which set up, Tyrese Halliburton to be effective down the stretch. And that's something that Indiana is so good with. But, one thing I really want to say, despite all the Halliburton success, despite all that, he's really got to, be effective like that all game. He can't just wait to take over down the stretch, because we've seen Tyrese Halliburton. When he's hot, he's red hot, but when he's cold, he's so cold. And, he's really got to show that he can take over for the whole game, because, like I said, his team sets him up well, but I need a little bit more out of Tyrese. So it's been great that he's been making these shots. But, guys, we know he has a lot of good help on that team. You look at Pascal Siakam. I got to give a big shout out to Pascal. He's really been showing up. He's been logging some great minutes. And you look at that team, like I said, when Halliburton goes cold, you look at that team. He's the number 1 scorer on that team. He knows what it takes. And you take a look, Pascal Siakam is the only one of 2 guys on that Indiana squad that has a ring. He won one with the Raptors in 2019. He was a vital piece to their ring in 2019 on their championship run. So this is a guy who knows what it takes to win a chip, and he's trying to, help Tyrese pull them across the finish line. But it can't just be Siakam giving it his all. It's got to be Tyrese being a consistent superstar. I think this is really where Tyrese Halliburton takes the next step to being great and cementing his legacy. You know, he's been just putting his head down, showing up to work every day, and this is where it's got to show. So, you know, I got nothing but faith in Tyrese, but this is where he takes that next step. And, you know, I'm really excited to see, you know, Pacers won one, but they got to win three more, and that's not going to be easy. You know, they really got their work cut out for them. You know, you got to give OKC their flowers. This defense is nothing like they've ever seen before. You know, Indiana, you know, like I said, OKC, the number one defense in the entire league. This isn't the Knicks, this isn't the Cavs, or this isn't the Bucks. All of those defenses that Indiana played to get to the finals were outside the top 10 in defense. So this is nothing like Indiana has ever seen before. And like I said, you got to give OKC their flowers. They're holding teams to just 44% shooting from the field, which makes all that Indiana shooting much more impressive because they shot 47% from three, which that's an anomaly in itself. OKC doesn't really allow that. So that goes to show, like I said, Indy came to play, but OKC, that, like, you know, they're going to tighten up a little bit. And like I said, they're allowing opponents to shoot just 44% from the floor, under 35% from three. So like I said, they're top 5 in both steals and blocks per game. You take a look at who they got out there. They're flying around, they're rotating, and, you know, they turn defense into offense. They're top 3 in the league in points off turnovers. So like I said, if you're Indiana, you got to tighten up. You can't turn the ball over 25 points because OKC, you know, you turn the ball over, they're licking their chops. They're trying to score. They're on the fast break. They're getting the deuce. They're capitalizing off that, and they're going to hurt you. And, you know, that's going to lose you games. So if you're Indiana, you got to tighten up there. And, you know, you look at who they got on defense. They got some defensive menaces. They got Lou Dort. You know, you look at Chet Holmgren leading the league, you know, up there leading the league in blocks per game. You got SGA. He's leading the league in steals, you know. So they got the defensive personnel. They're going to tighten up. And if you're Indiana, you know that they're coming for you. You know they're hungry. And, you know, they're going to try to run your pockets. They're going to try to be physical. So Indiana's got to be ready like that. They got to know that it's nothing like they've faced before. But, you know, I think Indiana is really up for the challenge. I'm really excited to see how OKC comes up and how OKC comes out swinging for game 2. I think it's going to be exciting. But like I said, you know, a lot of people think that Indiana came in and, you know, stole a game or that was a fluke. But, guys, it was nothing. It was not like that at all. It was the furthest thing from a fluke, guys. Indiana has been balling. They've been playing some great team basketball. They've been working hard to set their team up in the stretch, to set their superstar up in crunch time, you know, so in the stretch. So I think Indiana's going to come in and, you know, they're not just going to be pushed around. I think OKC is going to make it hard on them. But, you know, expect OKC, you know, to come out swinging in game 2. You know, they're going to protect their home court. They're not going to lose back-to-back games, I don't think so. I think it's going to be 1-1 going back to Indy, but you got to give, you know, OKC their flowers defensively. They're going to come out swinging. You know, they lead the league in steals. They don't just play defense. You know, they weaponize it, like I said. That those points off turnovers are top 3 in the league. So Indiana, you know, keys for game 2. You got to tighten up the turnovers. You got to get Tyrese Halliburton going early, get Pascal Siakam going early, space the floor, and, you know, you just got to play good basketball for 48 minutes. But, you know, for the Pacers, you've shown that, you know, 0.3 seconds is all you need out of that 48 minutes. But, you know, OKC, they're not just going to lay down. They're coming out swinging in game 2. But with that being said, SGA, GPA, YMCA, Pacers in 6. Got what it takes. I'm sorry, you know, last episode I was just raving about my boy SGA. I really think he's him, but I mean, I think the Pacers really just got what it takes. And, you know, I'm putting all the chips on the table on my boy Tyrese Halliburton, Pascal Siakam, Batman Robin duo. I think they're gonna do it. I think they're gonna give Indy, the city's gonna turn up, and, you know, I think they're gonna give Indy what they've been missing. But I think the Pacers are due. It's their year, man. I think they've really got what it takes, and I think their 2 superstars are going to get them across that finish line. But you heard that here first. Pacers in 6. Clip that, you know, tell a friend. Drop that in the comments who you guys got winning the NBA Finals. Pacers or OKC, 1-0 heading back to Oklahoma City. But, you know, let's dive in to the next topic a little bit. Sticking with the association, guys. New NBA All-Star Game format just dropped. Shout out, man. I got to give shout out to the commish, Adam Silver, for once again changing up the All-Star Game format. This is one of the guys, you look at all the major sports and All-Star Weekend, this is one of the guys who's changed it up consistently. And this is a guy who wants to make it meaningful. He wants to get his players involved. He wants to, you know, make it entertaining for everyone. And, you know, he has tried so many things to light a fire under these players, but, you know, nothing seems to work. You know, he's, you know, target score ending, captain drafts, charity incentives. I mean, you name it. Adam Silver has tried everything to, you know, make it meaningful for these players. But, you know, I think this one has found I think this is it. Like, this is the money one. Nothing has worked before, but this is going to be the one that really does it. I mean, this format, this taps into something deeper. It's going to be Team USA versus the world. I mean, we're talking about national pride. You know, this is USA, that built-in competition within the league, you know, so the USA superstars versus the international superstars that are in the league. And I mean, you're telling me Luka, Giannis, Jokic, SGA, you're telling me they don't want to talk their smack on the world stage? Like, why not? I think that's such great competition. I think that's actually going to up the stakes. And I mean, you're telling me Team USA wants to be the team to lose on their home soil? Like, that's not going to happen either. So, like I said, it becomes a sense of national pride. And it gets to a point where, you know, hey, I'm not going to be humiliated on my home soil. The All-Star game is going to be in LA this year. So they're already knowing, like, hey, I'm not going to let this team, you know, come in and take over this, you know. So we finally have the potential to get a competitive All-Star game again, not just, you know, half-court shots. As fun as that is, you know, that's not the move anymore. And I think people want something better. We want something more. And I think this is perfect. So, I mean, shout out to Commissioner Silver. You might have just found the cheat code with this, but, you know, a lot of people are saying, oh, like, oh, it's in the bag. You know, Team USA's got it in the bag. They're the reigning Olympic champs. Like, yeah, but, like, the Olympics is the team, you know, they were all spread out across teams. But now they're all going to be on the same team. So you're talking, like I said, Giannis, Jokic, SGA, all those guys are going to be on the same team. Wemby. Like, come on now. Like, I think it's going to be really interesting. And, you know, you take a look at the last time an American-born player won the MVP. That was 2017. And then after that, it was, you know, Giannis, Jokic, Embiid, and Shea. So it's like, it's up for grabs. It's going to be really interesting. And like I said, that pride comes out, that national pride. So I think Adam Silver really did his big one here. And I think it's going to be a good one. I think it's going to be interesting to see. You know, the formatting is still in the works. They're still trying to finalize it. What's good with the players? Who knows? We might see some other international stars. We might see some other countries represented. But, you know, it's still in the works. I'll make sure to keep you guys updated. But I think it's going to be great. I'm so excited to see that. And, you know, gosh, just Adam Silver, shout out to you, man. You're always doing it. But, guys, enough hoops. Let's take a shift. And, guys, let's talk some baseball, guys. It's been a minute. But, guys, let's talk about the best division in the bigs, the NL West. And, guys, it has been a competitive start for all teams involved. Sorry, not the Rockies. Sorry to all my Rockies fans. Cover your ears. But, hey, y'all won the series last week. Shout out to you guys. But, guys, let's focus on one team in particular, arguably the team under the biggest microscope, the boys in blue, the Los Angeles Dodgers. And let me just say, guys, shout out to the Bats for keeping the Dodgers alive and pulling them along, because this rotation and this, you know, bullpen, they are absolutely down terrible. Like you think down bad, and then, like, the Dodgers bullpen pitching staff were worse than that. Like, whatever you can think of, the Dodgers are just down terrible. But, like, let's get into the numbers, guys. Because, like, I don't even think you realize, like, just how bad this is. Like, guys, they're 23rd in the league in starting pitching ERA. They're last in baseball in innings pitched by their starters, which is terrible, showing that their starters cannot go the distance. And I'll get into that in a little bit as to why. But, guys, and then you look at their bullpen. They're middle of the barrel. I think they're about 17th in the league, if I'm not mistaken, in ERA at a 3.91. So, guys, like, their pitching staff is down bad. Like, this rotation, I talked about, you know, why their starters, why their innings pitched by starters has been so low, because they need so many guys in there just plugging innings, just chunking innings. Like I said, Clayton Kershaw, Tony Gonsolin, guys like that, just plugging innings. They haven't been able to really deliver for the Dodgers as much. But, you know, this rotation, the Dodgers are so banged up. You look at three of their biggest names on that rotation, you know, Snell, Glasnow, Roki Sasaki, they're all injured. They're all on the IL. And, you know, who knows when they're going to come back. They're taking it really slow. The Dodgers know not to rush that. You know, they're even taking it super slow with Ohtani. So, you know, the Dodgers are banking on so much coming back. And, you know, when they come back, the Dodgers are going to be in such a good spot. But, I mean, till then, they're going to need some guys to step up. Like I said, they've really needed to lean on some pitchers to log some good innings. And so far, they really haven't delivered. Like I said, guys like Dustin May, Tony Gonsolin, Clayton Kershaw, you know, they need to deliver, and they haven't been delivering. You know, the Dodgers need inning eaters right now. And, you know, the fact that, we've been having a taxed bullpen. Our bullpen's banged up. Tanner Scott hasn't been delivering like he's supposed to, like we anticipated. So, like, we need to really just hold it down for a little bit, guys. Like, help is on the way, for real. Like, help is on the way. We threw in the flag, like, they're coming. Help is coming, for real. So, like, we got to just hold it down. But, hey, shout out to the offense. Like I said, this rotation is really banged up. They've been having to get creative with the rotation, but they have let their bats do all the talking, guys. Let's get into the numbers offensively. I talked about the atrocious numbers, defensively, pitching-wise, but, guys, I guarantee you, the light at the end of the tunnel, there's better days, so you look at runs. First in the league, 352 runs. First in home runs with 100, and second in RBIs with 341, guys. So, like I said, this offense has been picking up the slack for the pitching. They're making it okay to allow 5 runs a game because the Dodgers got the bats. Like, hey, all right, whatever. Like, you can score 5, we'll score 7. Whatever, we can do it, all right, whatever. But it can't be like that. A good offense can cover so many pitching holes in the regular season, but, the key to winning meaningful ball in the playoffs in September and October, guys, you got to have a rotation. You got to be locked in for the postseason. You got to have your anchors. You got to have, your stars back, and the Dodgers just don't have that right now. That's really where they're lacking. They're going to need more out of those guys, like I said, but the bats are going to be there. They're going to have run support, but this is something that can catch up to them so quickly, and they're lucky that it kind of hasn't yet. But, they just got to hold it down for a little bit longer. Slowly but surely, guys are going to start creeping back up off that IL, but they have been able to have so much success because, guys, let's really dive into that Dodger lineup. You look at, 1 through 3. Really, I'm going to be talking about 1 through 6, but let's start off with 1 through 3, that top 3 for the Dodgers. Ohtani MVP, Mookie Betts MVP, Freddie Freeman MVP. Guys, if I'm the opposing pitcher, I'm literally, like, shaking in my boots right there. Like, not even, like, no glaze. Not even trying to be like that. Like, I'm literally shaking in my boots. There's no way around that. You start off your game, you're thinking you're going to ease into it, but, guys, you got Ohtani, Betts, and Freddie Freeman. So it's like, okay, you got guys who see so many pitches, and they just grind pitchers down. They can get into those long at-bats, those productive long at-bats. They see 7-8 pitches at-bat, so they wear down those pitchers, which sets up those Dodger hitters, which are next in the lineup. They set them up for success just by being good hitters. And, they might not always get on base. They might ground out, but they saw 8 pitches, and they allow that guy who's in the on-deck circle to time up the pitcher a little bit to allow them to be productive. But really, guys, you guys don't realize how good that 1 through 3 for the Dodgers sets up the rest of the hitters, 4 through 9. Guys, those 3 MVPs are doing it for the Dodgers. And like I said, Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, and then you got the best offensive catcher in the league in Will Smith. So it's, and I want to bring up something that's so funny that I've been seeing. How teams will intentionally walk Ohtani, and then they got Mookie Betts, and then it's a base hit, So it's like, pick your poison. At what point, like, I get it, Ohtani's the best player in the world, but it's like, pick your poison. Like I said, you got 3 MVPs to choose from. So it's like, at some point, you got to know what you're getting. It's not going to pan out how you think. You got 3 MVPs right there, but like I said, you got, 1 through 3, you know what you're getting with those guys. But then you got Will Smith, the best offensive hitting catcher in baseball. Then you got Teoscar Hernandez, who, is coming off one of the best seasons in his career, completely new ball player with the Dodgers. And, they got him, they gave him the bag too, they can afford it. But like I said, that's enough with that lineup. But I want to bring something up defensively. I guess it's kind of along the lines with the batting order, but I really think it's time to move Mookie Betts, back to the outfield. I think his time in the infield is done. I think it's time for him to call it quits in the infield. Don't get me wrong, it's nothing on Mookie. It's nothing that he's done, but guys, I think it's something that the Dodgers need to do. Hae-Sung Kim needs to be playing every day. He needs to be in the lineup every single day. I think, he has shown in his short time that he's been given the start, that he can do it offensively. He can hit, he can run, he's speedy, he's smart on the bases, he can field at a high level. I think it's time for him to take over the shortstop duty, and I think it's time for Mookie to move in the outfield. I think it's really time to let Michael Conforto ride the pine a little bit. And I'm sorry, Michael, no disrespect to you, man, but I think it's your time. I think you really just got to reflect and turn things around. I mean, you got a big clutch base knock. You know, if you do stay in the lineup for a little bit longer, hopefully, you know, that kickstarts you. You got a big base knock to win the game against the Mets in that series to earn the split. But, I mean, you have been struggling. You've only been hitting a $162, and I think, you know, you've been given plenty of opportunities. I think like 2 for 35 with runners in scoring position. You know you're going to get opportunities, so it's like you got to be hungry, man. I don't know how much more patience the Dodgers have with you. I don't know how much more patience the fans have with you, but you got to get it together, man, because, you know, big things are coming for you and for the Dodgers, and you got to lock it in, man. If you want to produce, you got to produce. And, you know, we need everybody to be clutch because there will be opportunities. There will be opportunities for you, but, hey, that's going to do it for today's episode, guys. I appreciate you guys, but let me know what you guys think. Like I said, drop your predictions for who you got winning the finals. What do you guys think of this NBA All-Star game? And what do you guys think about the Dodgers? Do you think they got what it takes? Do you think they're going to be able to – you think their offense is going to be sustainable to carry them to October? Let me know, guys. But like I said, thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of What's the Word. I'm your host, Sam Casillas. And like I said, share this with a friend. Make sure they share this with a friend. Tell them to tell a friend, guys. We're trying to go viral. We're trying to take over the world with this What's the Word stuff, guys. Like I said, put somebody on What's the Word. I guarantee you're going to be the reason why they're so thankful, guys. They're going to appreciate you so much. This is what they're missing in life, guys. Everyone needs a little What's the Word in their life, so make sure to give it to them, guys. But I appreciate all the love. You guys are the real MVPs. But as always, I'm your host, Sam Casillas, and we'll see you next time. Appreciate you guys.